the moderator will just do not start recording, please. We're doing a rundown. John, sorry, I'll tell you and the AIDS conference. Thank you for that. If you did attend the AIDS conference or did actually miss that out, ideally the slogan was put people first. And that's why we're having this third discussion. If you've been following keenly the collaboration between ENASO, GNP Plus, and SRHR Alliance, we've already had 2 X spaces just looking at how we can put people first and how we can put adolescents and teen mothers as at the center of all these discussions. So today we're going to have a super light discussion being moderated by Nakato Martha from SRHR Alliance Uganda. And we're going to just spend an hour and a half on this discussion. So the first hour will be presentations from the speakers who you're seeing on the screen. But first of all, I need to actually recognize the partners who've made this particular webinar possible, and that's ENASO in collaboration with GNP Plus, SRHR Alliance Uganda, the SHAP Partners, which is a project running for 4 years and being funded by the European Union, NANDRI, a network of young key populations, Ghana, Anglophone Africa Regional Learning Hub that's been hosted by ENASO. We'll just dive into it, because I only have 2 minutes to spare. Now, our webinar is going to be about having fun and networking. We emphasize as ENASO that you need to get the most out of these discussions. So when people are introducing themselves on the chat, please feel free to network and pick a couple of contacts that might help you in your line of work. Now, use the electronic hand to request any chance to speak. Always be on mute. And I know once you log in, you're always unmuted, but please do mute yourself. You subscribed, hence gave consent to being recorded. So the minute you registered for this webinar, we took that as a consent for the webinar to be recorded. Rename your account. This will help the moderator also identify you during Q&A and any other bit of the session. We use the chat option for Q&A and comments. Let's make it lively. Let's make it interesting. And above all, respect each other's opinion. Now, without further ado, as I mentioned, I only have 2 minutes to make my introduction, but the show is going to be run by no other than Nakato Martha. And Nakato Martha works with the SRHR Alliance Uganda as the Community of Action Facilitator for the We Lead program. Now, Martha is experienced in national and global HIV prevention and comprehensive sexuality education advocacy, with an emphasis of promoting young leaders in HIV prevention, access to HIS, RHR, and policy development. Now, I'm just reading this bio, but once you see her do her thing while moderating, you'll understand how the bio actually does not do her justice. But Martha has developed a strong national and regional reputation for championing community rights and needs in the HIV response with a consistency. Now, Martha, over to you to take the show over. I hope you're there and you can hear me or see me. Just confirm.
Yes, I can hear you, Lizzie. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear, so over to you.
Thank you, Lizzie, and thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon in East Africa. Wherever you are, good morning, good afternoon.
My apologies. I'll just call upon my colleague Richard again to keep an eye on the unmuted colleagues. But ladies and gentlemen, please mute yourself once you're in the call. Thank you. Martha, sorry about that. Over to you.
Thank you, Lizzie, once again, and welcome everyone. Thank you for sparing your afternoon. It's 3:06 in Uganda, and I think the same is for most of the East African community countries. I would once again love to thank everyone for sparing your afternoon to join us today. And for this webinar, we put people first. And what does this mean for teen mothers everywhere? I am proud to say that I'm joined with a panel of amazing speakers from all corners of life: government, policy, academia, community, and all other stakeholders. And to you, listeners, and all other people who have joined us, I think it's a clear commitment of, how this conversation is important for all of us and why we should move. Just yesterday was the Sexual Health Day. And we know for sure that without sexual health, there is absolutely no health, because this is at the foundation of our lives and at the foundation of the broader health life aspect. For our webinar today, put people first and what this means for teen mothers. We all know that adolescent girls and young women continue to bear the hugest burden of HIV. And when you're to reflect on the UNAIDS report that just came out recently, the Global AIDS report, it is clear on the urgency of now and why AIDS remains at a crossroad. So for this conversation, I'm hoping that it could be a stronger commitment for us to move forward, move away complacency, and ensure that adolescent girls and young women, especially teen mothers, are prioritized in the agenda, be it at the national and global agenda, for us to end AIDS as a collective and for us to commit to end new HIV infections. As we start, I will invite our first keynote address from Alison Kaitesi. Alison works with the East African community and works in the health and adolescent department with the East African community. She will be giving us an overview of HIV and the realities of teen mothers in the East African region. Over to you, Alison.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can see me briefly. If you cannot, I look like the picture that has been put on the screen. I'm glad to be here this afternoon, and of course, it's a pleasure to me on behalf of the ESC that we are discussing this very critical issue with regard to HIV and teen mothers. What I would like to say with regard to what we are doing at the ESC, because of the importance of this particular subject matter, we have actually made a deliberate policy effort to integrate HIV and SRHR responses and interventions for adolescents and young children, young women.
Sorry, Alison, I'm sorry to cut you short. You're a bit faint. Do you mind just raising your voice a bit?
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Usually I'm told I'm too loud. So let's
Please be loud. Please be loud.
I'm trying to be demure.
I hear you.
So as I was saying, that at the ESC, I think everybody who is on the call is aware of what the role of the ESC is. It's a regional intergovernmental organization bringing together 8 countries, the latest of which is the Federal Republic of Somalia and the Democratic Republic of Congo. They are the latest entrants. So at the ESC, what we have done is that we have actually recognized that the issue interventions that target teen mothers are at the intersection with SRHR, and so we have chosen to integrate those two policy areas in terms of the programs that we offer. And again, at the ESC, our role is really strategic. Our role really is to set the basis for regional integration, which means that we are a policy making organ, and we promote the harmonization of the responses and strategic interventions in the various areas that we work. So with regard to HIV, I think you're aware that we have the HIV Act 2012, and that act, hello?
Carry on. Sorry. Yes, carry on.
Yes, it's already a law that the countries have already assented to, and within that law, one of the key issues that it highlights is the targeting of adolescents and young women, but also other vulnerable groups, to ensure that all stakeholders adopt and develop and design and even adopt policies and strategies and programs that promote the protection of these vulnerable groups, but also adolescents and young women who the teen mothers, which also includes teen mothers. But besides that, I know we mentioned about the SRH bill, the ESC SRH bill 2021. I would like to bring to your attention that the bill, which is currently in Parliament, in the East African Legislative Assembly, as we speak, is they call it the property of the Parliament. So ideally, we are not supposed to discuss the content and the principle of this bill because it is still under discussion. After collection of all the views from the region, it has now been handed over to Parliament. It has undergone the second reading. When the Fifth Assembly ended in December 20, I think it was 23, we had it has been revived and is still under consideration. So officially, I think even for your own knowledge, in future, if you want to discuss anything with regard to this bill, you can invite someone from the assembly. But primarily, the bill is in place to protect and facilitate the fulfillment of the life course, sexual and reproductive health and rights of all people in the community. And that also includes, of course, adolescents and young women, to promote and provide age-appropriate sexual and reproductive health information and services for adolescents and young people in line with the universal health coverage. And of course, promote responsible sexual and reproductive health behavior among adolescents and young people. To facilitate and promote prevention of newborn, child mortality, maternal mortality, and morbidity from preventable causes, including prevention of mother-to-child transmission of HIV, to facilitate and promote reduction and elimination of unsafe abortions, HIV, and other STIs, as well as unintended pregnancies, and of course, prohibit and facilitate the elimination of harmful cultural practices, including FGM, early child marriage, among other inappropriate cultural practices that promote the transmission of HIV among young people. So with regard to what we do at EAC, we set the policy, strategic and legal framework within which the countries operate with the aim and with regard to young teen mothers to ensure that to promote among countries the adoption and harmonization of policies and interventions that ensure that these young people do not succumb or are not affected negatively by harmful or infectious diseases like HIV. And we have a minimum package for promotion, for integration of HIV and SRHR programs and interventions in the countries, which has been disseminated to all countries, that highlights at least a minimum set of services and interventions that should address the challenges and promote the provision of services for adolescents and young people, which again includes teen mothers. I hope at least up to there, we are on the same page with regard to what the EAC is doing to ensure that young women, adolescents, and generally both boys and girls, I know is also critical because of how it's a vicious cycle. At least it sets the basis for discussion today. Thank you very much. Over to
Thank you,
moderator. Yes.
Thank you so much, Alison. Alison, you clearly mentioned that one of the things that the government is doing to uphold the access to sexual reproductive health for teen mothers and overall young people, or even the adolescent girls and young women, is to ensure that there are policies in place to ensure that these rights are protected and also promoted. And of course, you did recognize that this is a human rights need. So I would love to welcome our next keynote speaker, Lisbon Chamwe. Lisbon Chamwe is from Zambia. He is the Principal Planning and Collaborations Officer with the Human Rights Commission of Zambia. Alison, you're welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, and good afternoon, everyone. Okay. Thank you so much. I wish to recognize those that have been recognized earlier, including NANLI, SO, and GNP, and other partners and sharp funders, the EU, and indeed the speakers. Thank you so much. It's so nice to be with you together, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed colleagues. Today we gather to discuss on an issue that is only critical for individuals, for individual well-being, but is also a fundamental to achieving broader social and health outcomes, especially when we talk about sexual reproductive health rights for adolescents. Let us affirm the universal principle that human rights basically are inherent, alienable, and indivisible. This means that the right to health, education, and freedom must be understood in light of one another. The sexual reproductive health rights of adolescents are vital components of human rights, yet they are often overlooked and violated. And that's why we always have a lot of challenges when it comes to HIV cases among the adolescents. As you may be aware, this world over has over 1.8 billion youth and adolescents. So, which means sexual reproductive health rights encompasses many entitlements, including the right to accurate information and education that is responsible for them to make decisions that are good for their own way of living. And it's as well an issue that looks at access to health services, freedom from discrimination and violation. For adolescents, these rights are particularly crucial. You may, I'm sure you're aware of the fact that when you talk about adolescence, it's a pivotal stage in human development. There are a lot of issues that come into play. That's the time when they are discovering and exploring their identities, including their sexual and gender identities. And this is often explored under difficult circumstances. There's a lot of confusion and fear and misinformation. We must remember that. At this stage, our adolescents are not just merely people that we're looking at, future adults, but they are individuals that need to enjoy these rights here and now. Upholding their rights is essential for their current well-being. But you may be aware that the challenges that are there is the issue of them understanding where they can have redress mechanism. But at least we are very privileged that we have national human rights institutions. These institutions play a crucial role in ensuring that the rights of adolescent girls are protected, including their right to access sexual and reproductive health, education, and information. Among the issues that these national human rights institutions do, one, they advocate for policy influence. They can push in for the integration of human rights standards in the formulation and implementation of the laws and policies in order to achieve the intended goal of having the rights of adolescents. And at the same time, these institutions can advocate for having comprehensive sexual reproductive health education in schools and communities, and ensuring that policies are inclusive and address the specific needs of adolescents. The other one is that they do carry out monitoring and reporting. They carry out this crucial monitoring of collecting information and assessing to see to it that national whatever nations are doing or states are doing are within the human rights standards. They make sure that they see to it that the government respects, protect, and fulfill the human rights issues. They as well report on the status of adolescent girls' rights, highlighting areas where government and other stakeholders need to. The third is basically that they need to carry out education and awareness, teach about these issues, give them the right information, and help in dispelling myths and reducing stigma. And the other thing is they as well receive cases where the violations have been noted and provide mechanism. So, ladies and gentlemen, they as well facilitate for dialogue and collaboration among stakeholders. Ladies and gentlemen, sexual reproductive health rights are critical entitlements based supported through human rights based approaches that empower rights holders who claim their right and duty bearers to fulfill their obligation. HIV and teen mothers is a discussion that we can all relate to, as the increase in HIV infection among adolescents in the sub-Saharan region has been on the increase. Having a candid and open discussion that incorporates stakeholders such as civil society, government, national human rights institutions, and the adolescents themselves and others is commendable. It should be noted that access to sexual reproductive health, education, and information is a fundamental right that empowers adolescents to make informed decisions about their health. In concluding, we need to imagine a time when every adolescent has access to knowledge and services and thrives in the enjoyment of their rights. However, this may not be achieved if we cannot protect the rights of adolescents. Therefore, we need to empower them, that is the rights holders and the communities, the state and agencies, with information on sexual reproductive health rights, and help them to understand that adolescents and young people are human beings with human rights. They are to be promoted and protected for them to effectively be enjoyed. Please remember, in every meeting I quote Albert Einstein, who said, "The world is a dangerous place, not because of those who do evil, but because of those who look on and do nothing." The question is that, are you the one who look on and do nothing? Then you are the evildoer. Thank you so much as we continue and deliberate in this discussion. Thank you so much, moderator.
Thank you so much, Lisbon. I think, Lisbon, you've literally opened it up to the house, and I'm hoping that for the next hours of this conversation, we can be able to dialogue with candid authenticity, and also to really break away the complacency and get ourselves to action as a collective in the community. I want to thank again Alison and Lisbon for opening up this conversation for all of us. For the next segment of this webinar, we'll be having more interactions from speakers from the community and learning from them on how can we move forward, how can we close the tab, and how can we front priorities of teen mothers and adolescent girls and young women in promoting their sexual reproductive health and rights. I am thus honored to welcome Gloria Nawanyaga. She's from Uganda, and she's part of the Global Alliance group and also champion. Over to you, Gloria. You will dive us into what it means to put people first, especially teen mothers, and also guide us on what the EPIC project is doing.
Okay, thank you so much, Martha. I hope you can hear me loud and clear. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes,
Yeah,
Gloria,
sure,
we can
hear you. Sure, you can proceed.
Perfect. Yes, perfect. I want to first thank Lisbon and Alison for the great and insightful insights or conversations that they have given to us. And also want to thank all the partners for organizing such a space for us to talk about these issues that are affecting adolescent girls and young women, but most importantly, the young mothers or the teen mothers. My name is Nawanyaga Gloria. Once again, I am the founder of Gilo Young Hostels Foundation, which is a youth-led charity organization that empowers, equips, and educates young people and children to improve on their livelihoods, so we promote quality of lives. And then I'm also the Global Alliance Community Champion and part of the EPIC. Now, talking about the theme today, putting people first, and of course, aligning it with the teenage mothers. It is so sad that actually, apparently in Uganda, we have so many young people, especially adolescent girls and young women who are getting HIV every week. And when you look at the statistics, we are seeing that every week we have 500 girls that are getting infected with HIV, which is really, really sad. When you look at the report of World AIDS Organization, we have over 290 adolescent girls and young women that are getting pregnant. And on these, 32,000 are getting pregnant every month. So these are serious numbers, and these are serious issues that we really need to tackle to see that we really put them at the front line and we really address their challenges. Now, what is putting people first to me? Putting people first means prioritizing their needs, their rights, and well-being, putting them at the front line and meaningfully engaging them in decision-making and all the processes on issues and interventions that affect them. It is something that we have been advocating for, meaningful engagement of adolescent girls and young women, meaningful engagement of young people. But of course, this is something that we will continue advocating for, because if we are not engaged, that means we are not put first. If we are not engaged, our voices are not heard. If we are not engaged, that means we will not put in what we want and what works for us. Because as young people, as adolescent girls and young women, we know what we face, we know what we go through, and we know the solution. So we need to be put first by listening to our voices and putting our voices at the front line. And how are we going to do that? I was given 5 minutes, so please, I hope I'm not very fast. By empowerment, educating, and equipping these adolescent girls and young women with skills that can help them thrive. Not just surviving, but thriving. Let me talk about the first thing that I believe we really need to do when it comes to putting people first, especially adolescent girls and young women. We really need to have a comprehensive sexual education policy. It is so sad that in Uganda, when you look at the status of the sexual reproductive health and rights policy, it is so sad that we don't have one. And just like Lisbon has been saying, we really need this policy. This is a human rights matter. This is a fundamental right for these adolescents to get this information, to get these services, and most importantly, to be involved in these processes. So we really need to educate our young adolescent girls and young women, and we really need to educate the teenage mothers to see that they get the comprehensive education. And this education should be age appropriate. That means that we need to put these messages in languages that they understand and they resonate to, and it should be culturally sensitive. Because we have seen so many people saying that we have cultural barriers, which is very true. But maybe the culture leaders or the cultural barriers are coming because we are not trying to embody the culture into the information we're giving to the community. And believe me, all of us belong to certain cultures. All of us belong to certain traditions. So we need to engage these cultural leaders. We need to engage the people and make sure that the information we are giving them, the comprehensive information, sexual information we are giving them, resonate to their different cultures. Number two, we need to make sure that these young people access healthcare services when it comes to sexual reproductive health and rights. There are still so many challenges of accessing these services. And just like Lisbon has been saying, accessing these services, accessing this knowledge, I'll repeat, it is a fundamental human right. We need to protect these rights. We need to protect these, promote these rights by enabling easy access to information and the services. As I conclude, because I was given 5 minutes, I believe that we need to work together in a global solidarity and also collectively, just like the speakers have been saying, because this is something that really affects all of us. So we need to have a multi-sectoral approach in addressing these challenges like access to SRHR services, challenges like lack of information, challenges like lack of favorable policies. For example, in Uganda, we don't have one, yet we have a framework, which is really sad. Challenges of stigma and discrimination, challenges of gender inequality, and all these challenges, we really need to come together as a multi-sectoral entity to see that we address these challenges. As I conclude, I said earlier, I'm part of the EPIC champions and also the Global Alliance champions, and I can happily say that as Global Alliance champions, we are doing a lot in seeing that these young mothers get this information about SRHR and their sexuality education. And we are also going down at the grassroots to make sure that they get these services and the information as well. Some of our young mothers are facing these challenges at the grassroots, and they're telling them to us. And actually, even some of us as the champions, we are facing these challenges. So we as EPIC champions and Global Alliance, we are at the ground trying to resonate with fellow young mothers and adolescent girls and young women, but then also children, to see how best we can solve the challenges they're going through and see how best they can also contribute to the HIV global response. Last but not the least, I will emphasize more on promoting easy access to SRHR services. And as I conclude, Lisbon said something that we should not be did you say that the devil what? The wrongdoers? Yes, we should not be the wrongdoers. So we really need to protect these rights, promote these rights, and make sure that young people, adolescent girls and young women are put first by making sure that they're empowered, they get the access to SRHR, the services and the information, and also we have favorable policies. Back to you, Martha. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Gloria, and for summarizing it all in all. As we've all heard, I think it's clear that there is absolutely nothing for us without us. And therefore, for us to really advance this agenda, teen mothers, adolescent girls and young women who bear the burden of HIV and all other related SRHR challenges have to be seen. They have to be heard, and they have to be placed in the driving seat to lead. I would also want to remind us that we will later on have a session on question and A. So please feel free to as well use the chat box to share your thoughts and opinions. And I also would want to apologize. I know we have French speakers and other languages in the room. However, for today's webinar, we've only availed English. Maybe we'll be able to, in the next webinars to come, we'll think about how we can avail the inclusion of other languages and all other accommodative needs for persons with disability. So for very many times when we talk about the lives of teen mothers, you know, adolescent girls and young women, we tend to always focus more on girls. And where I come from, what a person once says that, you see, you empower these girls and these women, and now they become the men. Yeah, but guess what? It is us, the men, who have something to do and to end all these, you know, all these violences, all these inequalities. Of course, I do agree with part of those sentiments. And for me to also recognize that it takes two to tango, because who impregnates girls? Who is, you know, perpetrators of gender violence and all that? It is the community. So I really want to welcome Watara Yahaya to share with us the roles that men and boys can play in this role, and also what it means for men to hold the plight and the dignity of teen mothers and adolescent girls and women in general. Over to you, Watara. Watara, are you there? Can you hear us? Okay, so Wataya, are you there? Okay, so as we wait for Wataya to connect later on, I would want to welcome Tendai. Tendai, you have been an amazing champion in the work that you've done around, you know, HIV activism, advocacy, but also ensuring that the voices of women in all their diversity are upheld. I'd want to invite you to share with us what can be done before 2030 to ensure that we address HIV among teen mothers and also adolescent girls and young women. And also from your experience as a senior, are we on track? Are we losing focus? What can we do to revive the action and move away from complacency? I'll send it over to you. Tendai, we can't hear you. Tendai?
Hello?
Perfect, we can hear you now. Take it on.
Okay, thank you. I'm from the Pan-African Positive Women's Coalition Zimbabwe, which is a national network of women living with HIV. I would like to acknowledge all my previous speakers and the organizers of this webinar. And I think the previous speakers have already set the tone rolling as far as teen mothers are concerned. So what I would like to start saying is that we should always remember that teen mothers are a subpopulation among adolescent girls and young women. Therefore, they have a role to play on issues of sexual and reproductive health, economic empowerment, leadership position, and any other issues that affect them. Yes, statistics we heard from the previous speaker, how teen mothers are being affected by HIV and AIDS, and that is common throughout the sub-Saharan Africa, including the whole of Africa, which is the epicenter of the HIV pandemic, whereby women and young girls and adolescent girls and young women carry the brunt of the pandemic. We as Pan-African Positive Women's Coalition, we are also part of the Global Alliance in-country processes to end pediatric AIDS. And we ensure that teen mothers are sitting also in those spaces and being part of the planning, part of the implementation, and part of the M&E. So to end AIDS in children, adolescents, and young women by 2030, young women who are the productive age need to get attention and be given the necessary support. As some of you might be aware, in Zimbabwe over 2 years ago, our First Lady launched the Start Free, Stay Free campaign, which is really focusing on adolescent girls and young women, including the teen mothers. And we continue with that campaign as a prevention strategy, including the ABCDEF, that is abstain, no to sex until marriage, be faithful to one partner who also has to be faithful, correct and consistent use of condom, delay the onset of sexual engagement, discussions on pros and cons, and if support groups of teen mothers gives them the platform to highlight issues that affect them, and they come up with recommendations of what actions they desire to be done. So we also teach them about drug use, do not use drugs, because cases of transmission of HIV is also prevalent in injecting drug users and also substance abuse in turn. We eliminate all toxic, we teach them about toxic relationships. Toxic relationships also expose them to gender-based violence. Sometimes they'll fail to go to the antenatal clinic early when they discover that they are pregnant, or they may not know that they are pregnant. So we talk about all these issues, and we equip with, which means that using sterilized equipment like tattooing or acupuncture needles. And we also teach them to avoid using other people's disposable needles, as this exposes them to HIV. So friendly, factual, faithful discussions about HIV before marriage and during the relationships are also very important. And to young women who are actually HIV negative, and when I say young women, it's generic, I'm also talking about adolescent girls, and with narrowing it down to teen mothers, there is need to stay free, to protect that negativity. Right now, I think people are now saying that we need to have a status neutral approach, whereby if they go to the clinic with their partners to get tested for HIV, they get the same services with those who are negative, so that they remain negative for a longer period of time, and those who are positive are put on treatment. And also, information is made available to them to have a good relationship, especially when they are discordant. So we want them to get as much information as possible. I think the previous speaker did give us details on this. And information builds confidence and increase options, and also to deal with issues of stigma and discrimination, especially self-stigma. for teen mothers, sometimes they may fail to go to the antenatal clinic early for fear of retrogression in the family or in the community that they live in, that they are teen mothers, and also this judgmental attitude at healthcare facilities because they are young, they are not expected to indulge, they are not expected to feel pregnant, and sometimes they are not even given options or given information around their family planning. And we still have an unmet need of family planning among positive teen mothers who are there. So going for HIV screening with a partner to enable informed choices so that both of them can actually get the services. And we also promote healthy lifestyles. One sexual partner, the use of correct and consistent use of condoms, and just avoiding situations that can make them vulnerable to HIV when they are pregnant or when they are breastfeeding their children, their babies. So for those who were born with HIV, we have a lot of teens who were born with HIV. Some did not even know that they had HIV when they were growing up. They only discovered it when they got pregnant, or maybe when they went to the clinic and they got tested for HIV. So for those born with HIV and are living with HIV, it is critical that they are given adequate information and support for them to engage in a healthy relationship. I did allude on this earlier on. Living openly with HIV and disclosing the HIV positive status to the partner and family healthcare providers who enhance the support needed. They can learn from us, the veterans who have lived with HIV for over 23 years. We have disclosed when we got infected with HIV, we were young mothers. And some of us were also teen mothers, but because of experience and empowerment and psychosocial support and community support around us, we were able to confidently disclose our HIV status and also to start to play a positive role in our lives to help our communities and to help ourselves. And we also managed to successfully go through the EMTC program and get back to HIV negative mothers. So teen mothers who are positive are also able to give birth to HIV negative babies and to successfully breastfeed. And now information has evolved. It's not like before, whereby when you were positive, sometimes you get sterilized, or sometimes you'll be told that you cannot breastfeed your child because you are living with HIV or you cannot have children. But with the advancement and the involvement of HIV and AIDS, teen mothers can especially have children through normal birth, normal delivery, and safely breastfeed their children. So positive living will also enhance the vertical transmission and general well-being, and regular viral load testing and general physical exam. When those who were at the AIDS conference, there was this U equals to U agenda, which took center stage. But we can't achieve that in teen mothers if they are going to live longer and positively with HIV without viral load testing and other diagnostics. And viral load testing can also assist to help that they have healthy pregnancies and also give birth to healthy babies. So early treatment for any condition is also key. There is need to screen for STIs and other non-communicable diseases or communicable diseases such as TB. Right now, the Smart for TB, we are also involved as PACWIC Gym, where we are targeting pregnant mothers, lactating mothers, children under 5. We have been exposed to people with TB to ensure that they are screened together with their carers and household contacts so that we can also end TB in children. And teen mothers also need to have this information to ensure that they are screened for TB, their children are screened for TB, including their carers and the household contacts. So antenatal visits are very important. Visits for all pregnant women so that they can have access to services. For instance, entry point to ARV treatment once they are tested. All pregnant women are retained in treatment and care and support. Exposed infants have access to ARV prophylaxis to prevent HIV. For instance, myself, when I gave birth over 22 years ago, they gave me a prophylaxis for my baby. And my baby grew up, he's HIV negative, and now he's at university. But at that time, I was a very young woman as well. So I would like to reiterate the other speakers talk about human rights and gender equality are upheld in EMTC efforts, especially human rights for teen mothers. One, they are very vulnerable. We should know that they are still young and they are transitioning into human, into adulthood. Therefore, they need to be handled with care to ensure that we give them all the possible counseling and support that they need so that they can make informed decisions. And also to do away with this age of consent whereby the teen is 12 years, they are asked to come with an adult to the clinic or to come to the health center with an adult. We should know that teens are indulging in sex. And sometimes we are Africans, we don't discuss issues of sex and sexuality in home. So sometimes when they go to the prison, it is the second where they can talk about these issues. And I cannot say much more about community engagement. Community engagement, community engagement, community engagement. UNAIDS universal targets are talking about the 30, 60, 80. It's centering on community engagement and social constructing. And we have to ensure that teen mothers come up also with innovative programs that suit their needs. And they are also participating in this 30, 60, 80 strategy by UNAIDS, and not for us as adults to be fighting how we should respond to their needs. They know what they want, and all what we do is to advise, to be technical advisors, we move hand in hand with them and help them to see the bigger picture on the road that also play matters and enjoy their life. We also have to ensure that teen mothers, they don't stop their education. In Zimbabwe, we have a project from Malambo, whereby if a teenager girl falls pregnant, both the teenager and the boy, they are both teenagers, they are allowed to go back to school and should be allowed to go and deliver and come back to school. We need to empower our young women with education, because as they grow old, they will be able to take care of themselves and remove the burden of HIV, because they'll be economically empowered once they and good careers. So there is need for comprehensive vertical transmission of HIV services, given the importance of the continued and intensified progress among countries right now. For instance, we are saying we want to eliminate hepatitis B, we want to eliminate syphilis, we want to eliminate HIV, as well as TB. I'm glad the other speakers spoke about the Global Alliance to End Pediatric AIDS. And this is where all of this comes in. And the teen mothers are still vulnerable. Sometimes they experience traumas when they give birth. So they need the support to deal with those traumas. And some may even have the fear of breastfeeding. And when they are HIV living with HIV, sorry, they are using people language. When they are living with HIV and they are seen by the family that they are not breastfeeding or they tend to be more vulnerable to just violence. And there is no need for us to there is need for us to come up with an intervention to deal with that. So intervention to improve identification of pregnant women with HIV, retention of women in the postpartum period, guidance on use of integrase inhibitors during pregnancy and breastfeeding, implementation of enhanced infant popular and recommendations. Someone spoke about support groups. In most countries, support groups are dying a natural death. Where are the mental mothers to lead the way, to hold hands of these teen mothers? Because most of the teen pregnancies that are happening, they are very accidental. Because sometimes of peer pressure, drug abuse, rape, and other things. So there is need for us to come out with good friendly corners where teen mothers can also go and meet others of their kind, and they can share their experiences and to gain that confidence to say, even if you are at it's not the end of the world. It could happen. But there is a lot more to life that you can grow with your child. Also, issues of safe abortion. We want safe abortion laws so that teen mother feels that they don't want to keep the pregnancy, they should be allowed to abort in a policy framework, in a lawful abortion. And some of them may be too young that they cannot even carry that pregnancy. So we need to empower mothers with information on policies and laws around abortion and decriminalization so that they are assisted. And also we need to strengthen adherence to improve viral load suppression, like I said. treatment adherence is very, very pivotal. When we look at the 95, 95, 95, you know, the other treatment is about viral load transmission. The other treatment is about ensuring that people who get tested, 95% of them are put on treatment. So let's say 95% of teen mothers who get tested for HIV who are also put on treatment if they are found to be positive. And we also take mitigatory measures
And
to
if you
ensure
could
that.
summarize it for us.
Yes, I'm now about to summarize. I'm about to finish. I think I'm left with one slide. We want the World Food Program. It's found in almost every country to target pregnant and lactating women, particularly the teens, because they are vulnerable. You know, PMTC clients and children in its food support. Healthy diet is key to attract mothers to attend health care at clinics and hospitals. So we must also operationalize integrated approaches through the maternal and child health platform, ensuring that maternal and child care in public institutions receive budgetary support. How can we say a teen mother goes to a support group when we are not giving them even financial support to ensure that support group is effective and meets their expectations? So we need to strengthen community engagement to support the cascade of the care. Avail support efforts using information technology now, WhatsApp groups, etc., to strengthen linkages, maternal, newborn, and child health and HIV programs by focusing on the prevention of parent-to-child transmission and addressing loss to follow and strengthening referral system mechanisms. Some teen mothers, because they are so scared, they may not go back to the clinic, you know, to access these services. So I would recommend that we promote political advocacy and then accountability framework at country level. I think what speaker did mention that, and he did explain so clearly. Let's coordinate networks to coordinate with partners to support national strategies to achieve the new accelerated targets of the EMTCT, including the Global Alliance to End Pediatric AIDS. Let's set all and have the fit-all approach, especially option B for pregnant and breastfeeding women, and have support in place for retention. Yes, and we want our ministries to continue to support EMTC through integrated service delivery programs and partnerships, and also a focus on family planning for teen mothers. And in Zimbabwe, we are trying to outsource support from the usual partners to ensure that, you know, we support these programs like Sister to Sister, that is also supported by National Council, Global Fund, PEPFAR, and others. So, yeah, I think I'll just say a brief on what transpired at the AIDS conference. Others who attended will also get on. But from what I attended, the sessions that I attended, the key successes were that advances in HIV treatment, renewed commitment to HIV responses, and community engagement. Then the U equals to U agenda, global advocacy was well received, and the commitment to roll it out from community level. And we had progress from countries in the Global Alliance to AIDS, issues of women and girls, people, population, and our countries and communities could continue to play a role towards the global target of ending AIDS by 2030. Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you so much, Tendai. When you speak, your passion is always tap, 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 tap. And I really, really applaud you for that. When you were speaking, you did mention, you know, the key things that we need to do before 2030. And of course, you did re-echo the need for political will, you know, to fund, to finance programs that are for teen mothers, to step up on key areas around policy development, and also to allow room for protecting their human rights and their overall health care. You also did note that we cannot choose what to avail and what to give, because when there is a variety of options, choice prevails. But accessibility is something that we cannot negotiate about, and we need to find means on how to ensure the accessibility of information, services, reproductive health care in all their packages. Of course, you also did applaud that community has to be at the center. And when we say community, we don't want to leave anyone behind. Yahaya, are you there now? I would really, really want to hear from you about the men.
Yes, I am here,
And also,
Martha.
Thank you. And also for me to say that I was raised by a single dad from the age of 5. My mom died when I was 5. So I understand the role that men play in upholding the potential of women and also in ensuring that they don't survive but thrive, just as Gloria said. So Ataya, hearing from you, what is your role as men in this overall conversation? And how can we have you as key actors and as key allies to ensure that the rights, the well-being of teen mothers, adolescent girls and young women is protected? Over to you, Watara.
Thank you so much, Martha, for this great moderation. And also thanks so much to the speakers for their great insights and knowledge. I was just smiling and learning. I was like, wow, this has been a very great webinar, no doubt, a wealth of information and also enlightenment for us as young boys or men to have an insight into all that is happening. And also thank you for the opportunity to share briefly my insight from the perspective of men and boys, because I've been a young boy before. Greatly, I would like to share something, a conference that we had in Nairobi, somewhere in May last year. It's called the Men Engage. And recently I was told that there was another forum that they had recently in Nairobi, but that wasn't part, but I'll talk about the previous one. The reason for the Men Engage organization or group was for us to know and understand that we can never and ever achieve any intervention solidly that is aimed at promoting access either for adolescent girls and young women or for adolescent teen mothers in general without the direct engagement of boys side by side. Because it is very important that most of the issues and problems that we are trying to look at, even whether we look at it from the the girl child perspective, the boy child component should not be taken out, because in most cases, some of these issues is either caused, whether be it abuse, human rights, or whatever, teenage pregnancy, it's either one way or the other, the boy child is involved, or some way, somebody that is even out of that bracket that was also a boy child before. So working in hand or doing programs that targeted adolescent girls and young women and also targeting adolescent boys in hand, I think it's very, very important, because one of our key takeaways from that conference was that there should be a deliberate attempt that policies and programs that are meant for adolescent girls and young women should also cater for the needs of adolescent boys. Because if whatever adolescent girls and young women go through is the same, if not double, for the adolescent boys as well. So at the end of this conference, we're able to come out with a practical intervention called the Roadmap for Men Engage, where we have women and men and women all working side by side to ensure that violence against women and girls, teenage pregnancy, and all that, the discussion should not leave behind, especially the boy child, which is very, very important for me as a young person. What we've been able to do so far with some of the interventions that we have done in various schools to curb teenage pregnancy and others, we have the drama club, where we ensure that young people have a role to play, especially for boys. Their role in curbing violence against women and girls. Mostly the first interventions that we have in the school was the violence against women and girls. This happened during COVID, where a lot of young ladies and young girls were abused in several ways, whether rape, because they get to stay home, they get to visit their partners, and they get to stay with those that have partners get to stay with their partners that their parents don't even have, they were not aware of. So most of them experience a whole lot of violence. So the program aimed at addressing some of the issues that girls child were facing during the COVID. And we implemented this project, and some of the key issues that came was the fact that the boy child don't have much knowledge on most of the interventions that has been designed for adolescent girls and young women. Most boys don't have much knowledge on that. And we don't even know how some of the behaviors that we put up affect the girl's child. Some like sexual harassment, and then consent, seeking consent, partnership consent, and others. It's, for me, one thing that was even an eye-opener for me was we had a slogan that said, when the girl said no, it's no, especially when there is a full stop. So it became a very popular slogan for us, because as a boy, when you are having a relationship with a girl, all that you care about is the fact that it's like you own the person. The person does not have right to their body. They don't have the right to say no and all sort of that. So through that project, it was an education for us as boys, and it's also an education for our colleagues, because we got to understand privacy issues. We get to understand how to respect ladies, their opinion, how to respect when a lady say yes, you should understand when a lady say no. So in general, what I would want to say from that project that we embarked on, and the lessons that we learned, was the fact that all program cannot be successful if we want to leave the boy child away, because the boy child has a role to play, key role to play, in a sense that in terms of education, all the interventions that are being tailored towards adolescent girls and young women, the boys should be involved in understanding their role, what is in for the boy child to play to make those interventions successful.
Thank you so very much, Watara. I think you summarized it for us, and when you were speaking, I think you were reflecting more. Are you there, Watara? Okay, so I think we are all in agreement that for any society to develop, the priorities of women have to always be at the forefront. Women are the mothers of the nation. We build generations, so we cannot downplay and we cannot overlook the upholding of their overall well-being, but also importantly, the access to health. Colleagues, I would want to remind you again that in the next 2 minutes, we will be opening up our questions and answer session. Please feel free to ask any of your questions in the chat, to also reflect and contribute to the conversation. Do not forget to as well contribute over the different social media platforms that we have: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and then also for those who are on LinkedIn, and our hashtag is Put People First. I'd also want to thank our amazing partners, GNP Plus, the SHARP Project, the European Union, UNASO, and everyone who has contributed to this webinar. I want to highlight that the power of linking and learning is really imperative as we get to learn from different countries on how they are addressing this key challenge, but also importantly, learning from them on how policy, public health approaches can really build more inclusive communities, but also communities that are more supportive to address these challenges. Colleagues, I would want to welcome a representative from the Ministry of Health in Tanzania to share with us their experience on how they are tackling key challenges around HIV and teen mothers in the lens of Tanzania, and also share with us part of the lessons and best practices that we can learn as Africans and also all other people that are joined on this call.
Okay, thank you so much for welcoming me. I'm Jessica Masanja from Ministry of Health Tanzania. I'm working at Newborn, Child and Adolescent Health as a program officer. I will be speaking on behalf of Mr. Gerard Kiwele. Has got other issues for today, so bear with me for that because I was not aware. Thank you, the team and organizers, for preparing this meeting, for this webinar meeting. Yeah, as this speaker said, to share lesson learned and the practices on what we are doing concerning adolescents in Tanzania at the Ministry of Health. Yeah, what I can say is at the Ministry of Health, we are dealing with out-of-school adolescents between 10 to 24 years. So based on that, we have policies and standards. We are implementing based on our developed standards and the national policies. We have what we call NAIA, is a national document. NAIA means national NAIA means National Accelerated Action and Investment Agenda for Adolescent Health and Well-Being. This document is a cutting across. It is a cutting across document in which about 11 ministry is working on it, because when we are saying adolescent, it is not that means adolescent, it is only health issues perspective only. It is also on school, on the it is when we are talking about adolescent, there are those in school, there are those at the community. So in this document, there is pillars in which we are implementing on that. And the first one is about HIV, a pillar in which different interventions are being implemented to ensure that HIV infection is reduced among adolescents. Just in brief, the second pillar is about preventing teenage pregnancy, in which the Ministry of Health is addressing on it. So on this pillar, in which the Ministry of Health is focusing more, it is where we at the reproductive and child health we are dealing with. So what I can say in this, we are building capacity building to service providers. And I just want to refer folks to in which service providers from different health facilities are being provided with knowledge concerning adolescents on how to handle adolescents once they come to the health facility. And for now, we have 69% of our health facilities in Tanzania providing youth-friendly services by being capacitated. And the other, what I can say, what we are doing is also we are conducting community awareness by creating demand among adolescents by doing what we call bonanza, in which adolescents are gathered at the sports ground and being provided with information and then as well as services. So it is where the adolescents within the community get the services. Also, what we are doing as a lesson learned to ensure that adolescent intervention are being implemented is we are doing advocacy at the national and the regional level, in which those leaders at high levels to be aware on the importance of investing on adolescent health. As a result, it ends up on different interventions concerning adolescents be featured in the work plan. What again? What again? I'm starting because I was not well prepared, so at least I'm trying to have a recall on what to say. So that is what we are doing, but in ensuring that demand are created among adolescents, also we are doing capacity building to peers among adolescents, in which we have guidelines and standards whereby adolescents are being taught at different areas so that they can be ambassador and champions among adolescents in the community.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Jessica, one of the biggest lessons that we are learning from Tanzania is the power of education and empowerment for adults and girls and young women. It's also beautiful to hear about the policy frameworks that you have as a country on how you're pushing, for the protection of rights of teen mothers, enrollment back to school, but also ensuring that they are safe, they are protected in communities, and they are able to live free without fear, and they're able to really access essential sexual reproductive health services. I would want to thank all the speakers who have contributed to this amazing segment. I would not want to lay out everything that we've learned, but to all of you, the listeners, I want to believe that we've reflected deeply, we've learned one or two, three things, and believe me, we are lifelong learners. And I am proud to say that for me, I have learned that we still have a lot of unfinished business to do. And the only way we could accelerate our action if we move away from complacency and just as Libson said earlier, that we choose to lie and we don't face our realities, we are killing future generations and we are killing, the next generation of leaders. So we really need to step up to action and ensure that we protect the rights of women, we protect the needs of teen mothers and adults and girls and young women. At this juncture, I would want to open up the conversation in the chat box. Feel free to raise all your questions, but I'd also want to share with you something for you to reflect about, and for anyone who is able to maybe share a thought, one or two, you could as well ping in, and I would request the moderator to just allow space for people to be able to speak freely. So what can be done to narrow down incidences of, teen pregnancies, but also the mother-to-child transmission and the increasing number of HIV infections that we are seeing among adults and girls and young women? And what is your commitment ahead of 2030? I open it up to us. Please feel free to raise your hand. Yes, Lisbon, is that you? Do you want to say something?
Yes.
Take it
Yeah, I
over.
think hearing from what you just said, and what you said towards the end, to say what is it? I think what we can say is, like, when you look at national human rights institutions, they're very much committed to providing redress mechanism, and not only that, raising awareness. Why these aspects are very important is because they help out there. Because when you talk about issues of human rights based approach being introduced in whatever, either healthcare services or in education, what it does is that it brings an element of accountability. And these institutions like National Human Rights are committed to providing service to help out in making sure that the complaints are handled, awareness is raised, and they can monitor that every institution is meeting the minimum standards. We check on the accessibility, acceptability, availability, and quality of various institutions. So what we can say is that let's take keen interest as stakeholders to guide where we see these issues and where we feel the national human rights institution can come in. Let's refer them to such kind of institution. It would be very helpful because these are issues that we are grappling every day with. Because if we don't do anything, this 1.8 billion of the youth, all of them will be gone. And what is going to happen? They will fail to access the commodities that they require because they are fearing there is no information. They are just going around picking up anything they find. But if they have information, they will know what to do. I think basically that's what I can say.
Thank you so much, Lisbon. I don't know whether Dennis Buana is on the call. If you are, would you share with us part of the things that the SHARP project is also doing? And maybe if you could share your recommendations on this conversation. Dennis, over to you.
Yes, hello. Yes, Dennis is on the call. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Richard.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, briefly, I'm Dennis Bwana, working with the ANASO as an SRHR officer. And we are currently implementing the SHARP project. SHARP project is a European funded project focusing on sexual reproductive health and sexual reproductive health and rights for adolescents. It's implemented in the Great Lake region countries, including Tanzania, Kenya, Burundi, Rwanda, DRC, and Zambia. So the most things that we are trying to focus on under the SHARP project, and our core and principal recipient, that is Health Action International, briefly called HAI. We are trying to work with partners, bringing the multi-sectoral approach in addressing various SRHR gaps and challenges. And we are therefore bringing together religious leaders, faith leaders, media people, traditional leaders, local government authorities, the policy makers, duty bearers, the governments, especially MOH. We are bringing all these stakeholders, of course, with the civil society organizations as well. We are bringing them together to address some of the challenges. And basically, we are focusing on the availability of adolescent sexual reproductive health commodities at the facility level. And we are covering both facilities, including the faith-based facilities, the public-based facilities, and the private-owned facilities, to ensure that there are sufficient SRHR products which are available throughout the year. So the concept of availability, but also we are looking at the concept of the affordability of the products, because we did a research to see whether products are available. To some facilities, you will find products available, but not affordable. So we are trying to advocate to ensure that at the end, in all these 6 countries that we are implementing the project in, at least we come to a moment where adolescents can easily access their SRHR commodities and services at all facilities. And for that to be probably implemented in a manner that will make adolescents themselves comfortable, we are therefore bringing adolescents on board. We have capacitated number of champions in all these countries. So whenever we are meeting policymakers, whenever we are meeting religious leaders, it is adolescents themselves coming in front and expressing what they feel. We even managed to conduct a research that was led by adolescents themselves. So the research lead was an adolescent, and participants to that research were also adolescents. And they come out with a lot of findings indicating that still indicators are not good. Still service provision, the way service is being provided, is not sufficient to the needs of adolescents. So we are trying that at the end of this project, at least we have an environment where policies also support the provision of SRHR services to a point where religious leaders, faith community, all speaks the same language, as we are striving to improve the status of SRHR in the Great Lake region countries. But of course, the media people, the way they report, the content that they report should also be supporting the advocacy efforts that we are doing, without forgetting the role played by civil society organizations working on SRHR. So we have managed to create a pool of multi-stakeholders, all aiming at improving the status of SRHR in all these partnerships that we are working with. Briefly.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dennis. I'm seeing we're at the top of the hour, and we only have 10 minutes to end this webinar. And I see a couple of hands up. So Ruth Bikwa, would you share something in one? And then we will move to Luhano, Hosea, or whoever is ready to speak. Take it away. Ruth, are you there? Okay, Hosea?
Yeah, okay. Good evening, everyone. Okay, for me, I'm suggesting that maybe we come up with virtual communities. In this precedence, I'm trying to focus on teenage mothers or teenage girls who may acquire HIV but may not be willing to go for the physical clinics or hospitals. which come up with sometimes with the stigma, or sometimes how they be handled when they go there. If we set up like maybe virtual communities for people who are like those virtual communities already have people who are affected, and in case these teenage mothers or teenagers acquire HIV or get infected, they can easily reach out to someone who knows already what it means. This at least can pull them out of the hiding, instead of now these setups where we have, for example, if someone has contracted HIV, has to go to a physical clinic, hospital, some of these teenagers are fearing to access those hospitals. So I'm of a view that we can create a virtual world, somewhere maybe a platform where these kids or teenagers, in case they get affected, they can easily text or reach out to someone. For me, that is my submission.
Thank you so much, Hosea. So I'm going to invite all of us in the chat box. If you could share in one line, what do you want to be done? You can write something like invest to empower. So in one line, each one of you should write something in the chat box. And I'm going to welcome back our speakers who spoke earlier, also to share with us in one line, what is your parting away message to the audience and to stakeholders? Just in one line. Tendai, you want to go first? And then Gloria. Tendai, are you there? Okay, Watara, in one line or in one sentence? Gloria, are you there?
Yes, I'm on, Martha.
Yes. Would you share your one line parting away message, please?
Yes, sure. So my message is access to comprehensive sexual education, comprehensive sexual education and services is a human right and a fundamental human right that needs to be protected and promoted, and we should prioritize that.
Thank you so much, Gloria. Tendai. Tendai, are you able to speak? Okay, there you are. We can't hear you. And I think we are losing you. So Watara just sent me something saying that men and boys are allies. We need to step up to support girls and young women. This is our business and we have to be part of it. Thank you so much. Gerard, as Tendai prepares to come in. Okay, Tendai, I think we are still losing you. Colleagues, allow me to summarize for us the discussions that we've had in this webinar, and I will send it over to Lizzie to officially close us off. We've all agreed that this is a global issue, a global challenge, and it does affect all of us. And therefore, we need to step up to ensure that we confront with confidence and with commitment to address the key challenges that adolescent girls and young women suffer, but also for us to commit that integration is key as we move forward in upholding the potential of girls and women to enjoy the best quality of healthcare. We also did recognize that intersecting vulnerabilities are essential and priorities as we move deeper on ending new HIV infections and ending teenage pregnancies or other reproductive health challenges that teen mothers suffer, or overall adolescent girls and young women. Therefore, we need to find avenues to incorporate social, economic empowerment opportunities to ensure that they can thrive and not only survive. We also did recognize that political will is key and part of this agenda, and nothing can be done if our governments, if the different ministries do not step up to own this business, to sustain funding for programs and all other initiatives that ensure that critical needs of adolescent girls and young women are upheld. We all did recognize that communities are at the center of these responses. Therefore, we need to invest more in addressing key social, cultural, and economic challenges that put teen mothers at the wall, but also that shut their voices. And we did recognize that there should be absolutely nothing for teen mothers, for adolescent girls and young women without them at the driving seat. And also we've all committed, as we listened in and as we heard from the speakers, that this is our business. We must own it. We must all do something to protect the generations and to uphold the sexual reproductive health and rights of teen mothers and adolescent girls and young women in general. So I'll send it back to Lizzie. Over to you.
Thank you, Nakato. That was amazing. But I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Glory, to just do the wrap up. So Glory, over to you.
Thank you so much, Lizzie. Thank you so much, Martha, and all speakers. Indeed, this discussion has been very good and very enlightened, and we really appreciate. Just to say that IANASO is happy to collaborate more with partners who we are championing the agenda of adolescent girls and young women, teen mothers. This is our agenda, and as much as we are investing, we still need to push to make sure that the life of teen mothers and adolescent girls are protected. Under one of our project, the Learning Hub, which is supported by the Global Fund, we have technical support, which apart from supporting broadly on HIV, TB, and malaria, it also support matters on sexual reproductive health and rights in making sure that adolescent girls and young women are meaningfully engaged in all processes, being at national level, that affect their health. So we are calling out to you, if you need any support, you want to see how your country is doing on HIV programming, please reach out to us so that we can see how we can support you. So thank you so much, and let me wish you all a very nice day wherever you are. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.
Thank you, much appreciated.
Thank you, much appreciated.
Thank you, everyone, and bye-bye.
Everyone. Bye.